Everyone froze when the man holding a child walked in. My sister's laugh died on her lips, and then I said, "This is my husband, and our daughter." But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand why that moment mattered so much, why it felt like finally exhaling after holding my breath for 35 years, I need to start at the beginning. I need to tell you about growing up as the invisible daughter in Arden Falls, about the sister who could do no wrong, and about the family that only saw what they wanted to see. My name is Natalie Renshaw, and this is the story of how I stopped being a ghost in my own family. Arden Falls sits nestled in the rolling hills of Virginia, the kind of small town where everyone knows your business before you do. Main Street still has the same storefronts from when I was a kid: Miller's Hardware, the Buttercup Diner, and Rosie's Beauty Parlor, where my mother got her hair done every Thursday without fail. It's the kind of place where tradition isn't just respected, it's enforced with the quiet ruthlessness of 1,000 whispered conversations over garden fences. I grew up in a white colonial house on Maple Avenue, the middle child sandwiched between my older brother Marcus and my younger sister Samantha. But if you asked anyone in town about the Renshaw children, they'd tell you about Marcus, the high school football star who went on to manage the bank, and Samantha, the beautiful one, who married her high school sweetheart at 22 in a wedding that the local paper called the event of the season. As for me, I was the weird one, the artsy one, the one who spent too much time drawing in notebooks and not enough time at church socials. My mother, Lynn Renshaw, had very specific ideas about what constituted success for her daughters. Success meant marrying young, preferably to someone from a good local family. Success meant hosting dinner parties and joining the PTA. Success meant producing grandchildren to carry on the family name and traditions. By these metrics, Samantha was winning at life while I was barely participating. I remember the exact moment I realized I would never measure up in my mother's eyes. I was 17, and I'd just won a statewide art competition. The prize included a scholarship to a summer program in New York City. I rushed home, certificate in hand, bursting with pride. I found my mother in the kitchen, on the phone with my aunt. "Oh, Samantha's doing wonderfully," she was saying. "Did I tell you she's been asked to the spring formal by the Morrison boy? You know, Judge Morrison's son. Such a good family." I stood in the doorway, certificate growing damp in my sweaty palm, waiting for her to notice me. When she finally hung up and turned around, I thrust the paper toward her. "That's nice, dear," she said, barely glancing at it before returning to her pot roast. "Set the table, would you? And make sure to use the good china. Samantha's bringing her boyfriend for dinner." That certificate ended up in my desk drawer, eventually buried under college applications to schools as far from Arden Falls as I could afford to go. Portland. Oregon might as well have been Mars as far as my family was concerned. I chose it specifically because it was everything Arden Falls wasn't. Diverse, artistic, unconventional. The kind of place where being a 20-something with paint-stained fingers and ambitious dreams wasn't a character flaw but a badge of honor. I threw myself into the city's creative scene, waiting tables at a vegan cafe by day and attending gallery openings by night. I lived in a tiny apartment in the Alberta Arts District with 2 roommates who made experimental music and grew herbs on the fire escape. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could breathe. The calls from home came less frequently as the months turned to years. At first, my mother would phone every Sunday, her voice tight with disapproval as she asked when I was coming home, if I'd met any nice men. Whether I was going to church, I'd make excuses, cite work obligations, promise to visit soon. Eventually, she stopped asking. Our conversations became perfunctory. Health updates, weather reports, and always updates about Samantha. "Samantha's been promoted at the dental office. Samantha and James are looking at houses. Samantha's thinking about starting a family soon." I learned to tune it out, to make appropriate noises while sketching design ideas on whatever scrap paper was within reach. I told myself I didn't care. I had my own life, my own dreams. Who needed their approval? It was at a sustainability conference in 2018 that everything changed. I was there representing the small fashion startup I'd co-founded with my roommate turned business partner, Maya. We were showcasing our line of upcycled clothing, trying to catch the eye of investors who might help us scale up production. He was standing by our booth, examining a jacket made from reclaimed denim and vintage kimono fabric, tall, with sandy hair that kept falling into his eyes and hands that moved carefully, respectfully, over the garment's seams. When he looked up and our eyes met, he smiled, and something in my chest unclenched. "This is incredible work," he said. "The construction is flawless, but more than that, there's a story in every piece. You can feel it." His name was Evan Chen, and he ran a sustainable textile sourcing company. We talked for 3 hours that first day, starting with business and meandering through everything else: favorite foods, childhood pets, the books that changed our lives. He grew up in San Francisco, the son of immigrants who'd built their American dream one 16-hour day at a time. He understood what it meant to carry the weight of family expectations, to choose your own path even when it disappointed the people who loved you. My parents wanted me to be a doctor, he told me over coffee that had long gone cold. They still introduced me as their son who could have been a surgeon but chose to sell fabric instead. My mother introduces my sister as her married daughter and me as her daughter who lives in Portland, I replied. Not her artist daughter, not her entrepreneur daughter, just the one who lives far away. We were married 18 months later in the Portland Japanese garden, surrounded by cherry blossoms and the 20 people who mattered most to us. Maya was my maid of honor. Evan's sister Lisa stood as his best woman. We wrote our own vows, promising to see each other fully, to honor each other's dreams, to build a life that belonged to us alone. I sent my family an invitation. Of course, I even called my mother to tell her about Evan, about the wedding, about how happy I was. Her response was a masterclass in passive aggression. "Oh, honey, that's wonderful. Of course. You know Samantha's anniversary party is that same weekend. We've had it planned for months. Such a shame about the timing. But I'm sure you understand." I understood perfectly. I understood that my wedding, my happiness, my life would always come second to Samantha's most mundane celebrations. I hung up the phone and made a decision. I would stop trying to force myself into a family that had no room for me. The wedding was perfect without them. Evan's family embraced me immediately, his mother teaching me to make dumplings for our rehearsal dinner, his father walking me down the aisle since mine chose not to come. When the officiant pronounced us married and Evan kissed me under a shower of cherry blossoms, I didn't feel like anything was missing. I felt whole. We honeymooned in Vietnam, exploring the markets where Evan sourced some of his most beautiful fabrics. I filled sketchbook after sketchbook with design ideas, inspired by the colors and textures around us. We talked about the future, about the business we could build together, about the family we wanted to create. "I want our kids to know they're loved for exactly who they are," Evan said one evening as we watched the sunset over Ha Long Bay. "Not for who we think they should be." "I want them to know that family shows up," I added. "That love isn't just words, it's presence." We moved into a craftsman house in the Beaumont, Wilshire neighborhood, with a studio space for me and the converted garage and room to grow. Our business thrived, combining Evan's ethical sourcing with my design vision. We were featured in Vogue's sustainability issue. We were invited to speak at conferences. We were building something real and meaningful together. When I found out I was pregnant, Evan lifted me off my feet and spun me around our kitchen, both of us crying and laughing at the same time. We painted the nursery together, a mural of trees and birds and stars that took us 3 weeks to complete. I designed a line of sustainable baby clothes, each piece made with love and intention. I almost called my mother a dozen times during those 9 months. I'd pick up the phone, scroll to her number, imagine telling her about the ultrasounds, the kicks, the way Evan talked to my belly every night before bed. But then I'd remember all the milestones she'd already dismissed, all the times she'd pivoted to Samantha mid-conversation, and I'd put the phone down. Isla was born on a rainy Tuesday in March, screaming and perfect and absolutely certain of her place in the world. Evan cried harder than she did. whispering promises in Mandarin and English as he held her for the first time. His parents flew up from San Francisco, staying for 2 weeks to cook for us and coo over their granddaughter. My friend Maya organized a meal train, our house filled with love and casseroles and tiny pink onesies. I sent my parents a birth announcement. It came back unopened, marked Return to Sender. Later, I learned they'd been on a cruise with Samantha and James. My mother never mentioned receiving it when we spoke 3 months later, and I didn't ask. What was the point? The years passed in a blur of first smiles, first steps, first words. Isla grew into a curious, artistic child who approached the world with the same wonder her father did. She loved to sit in my studio while I worked, making her own creations from fabric scraps and buttons. Evan taught her Mandarin alongside English, and she switched between languages with an ease that amazed me. We were happy, genuinely, deeply happy in a way I'd never imagined possible growing up in that house on Maple Avenue. We had Friday night dance parties in our living room. We had Sunday morning pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. We had a life that was messy and loud and entirely our own. But late at night, when Isla was asleep and Evan was reviewing sourcing contracts, I'd sometimes find myself scrolling through Samantha's social media. Her life looked like a magazine spread. Perfect house, perfect husband, perfect dinner parties with our mother smiling approvingly in every photo. The comments were always variations on a theme. Such a beautiful family. Your mother must be so proud. Living the dream. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself I had everything I wanted. I told myself that blood didn't make a family, that the people who showed up were the ones who mattered. All of this was true, but there was still a part of me, buried deep, that wondered what it would feel like to have my mother look at me the way she looked at Samantha in those photos. When the baby shower invitation arrived, I almost threw it away without opening it. The envelope was addressed in my mother's careful script, my name spelled out formally, Miss Natalie Renshaw, as if I hadn't been married for 6 years, as if I was still the unmarried disappointment living too far away to matter. But something made me open it. Maybe it was Isla asking me the week before why she only had 1 grandma and grandpa when her friend Lucy had 4. Maybe it was the pregnancy test sitting in my bathroom drawer, positive as of 3 days ago. A secret I hadn't even told Evan yet. Maybe I was just tired of being erased from my own family story. The invitation was exactly what I expected. Pink and gold, professionally printed, with Samantha's name in elaborate script. Please join us in showering Samantha with love as she prepares for her greatest adventure yet. The date was 6 weeks away. At the bottom, in my mother's handwriting, was a note. Would love if you could show up for once. It's been years, and no one expects you to bring a +1, LOL. I stared at that last line until the words blurred. No one expects you to bring a +1, as if I was still the weird, single daughter who couldn't find anyone to love her, as if the last decade of my life hadn't happened, as if I hadn't sent them wedding invitations, birth announcements, Christmas cards with photos of my growing family. That night, I showed Evan the invitation. He read it twice, his jaw tightening. They still don't know about me? About Isla? They know, I said quietly. They just choose not to acknowledge it. He pulled me into his arms, and I breathed in the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with the lavender laundry detergent we used. You don't have to go. You don't owe them anything. I know. I thought about Isla in the next room, drawing pictures of her family, how she always included a grandma and grandpa she'd never met, figures with question marks for faces. But maybe it's time. The next 6 weeks passed in a haze of preparation, not just the physical preparation of booking flights and arranging time off work, but the emotional preparation of returning to a place that had never quite felt like home. I bought a new dress, soft gray silk, that fell perfectly over my barely showing baby bump. I had my hair professionally styled. I chose a pair of shoes that made me feel tall and confident. You look beautiful, Evan said the morning of our flight. Like you're ready for battle. Maybe I am, I admitted. Isla chattered excitedly throughout the flight, thrilled about the adventure and the promise of meeting new family. We'd told her the basics: Mommy had a sister who was having a baby, and we were going to celebrate with her. We didn't mention the years of silence, the dismissals, the way my family had pretended she didn't exist. I rented a car at the Richmond airport, muscle memory guiding me through the familiar roads toward Arden Falls. The landscape hadn't changed much. Same rolling hills, same grazing cattle, same small towns with their water towers and church steeples, but I had changed. The girl who'd fled this place at 18 was gone, replaced by a woman who knew her worth. "Is that where you grew up, Mama?" Isla asked as we passed the "Welcome to Arden Falls" sign, her face pressed against the window. "Yes, baby, that's where I grew up." "It's pretty," she observed, "but not as pretty as home." I smiled. Home, Portland was home, the life we'd built was home. This was just geography. We checked into a hotel on the outskirts of town, a new chain that hadn't existed when I lived here. I was grateful for the anonymity, the ability to retreat somewhere that held no memories. Evan took Isla to the pool while I sat on the bed, staring at my phone. "You sure about this?" he asked when they returned. Isla wrapped in a towel and babbling about her swimming prowess. "No," I said honestly, "but I think I need to do it anyway." The next morning, I dressed carefully, helped Isla into the yellow sundress we'd bought especially for the occasion, and tried not to throw up. Morning sickness had hit hard with this pregnancy, harder than with Isla. Evan held my hair back as I retched into the hotel toilet, then brought me crackers and ginger ale. "We can still leave," he offered. "Say you got food poisoning. Say our flight was canceled. Say anything." I shook my head, wiping my mouth. "No, I've been running for 17 years. I'm done running." The baby shower was being held at the Arden Falls Country Club, because of course it was. Samantha had probably dreamed of hosting events there since we were kids, pressing our faces against the fence, watching the members' children play tennis in their white clothes. The parking lot was full of cars I recognized. Mrs. Henderson's ancient Buick, the Morrison family's matching SUVs, my Aunt Margaret's hybrid with its collection of political bumper stickers. "You stay here with Isla," I told Evan. "I'll text you when it's time." He kissed me softly. "You've got this. You're the strongest person I know." "Mama, why aren't we all going in together?" Isla asked, confused. "It's a surprise, baby," I said, smoothing her hair. "Daddy will bring you in soon for a special surprise, okay?" The country club was decorated like a wedding reception. Pink and gold everything. Balloons arranged in elaborate arches. Tables groaning under the weight of catered food. A professionally printed banner read, "Baby Morrison coming soon," in letters taller than I was. I signed in at the guest book, my hand shaking slightly as I wrote my name. The woman manning the table, someone's cousin, I thought, though I couldn't place her, looked at me blankly. "I'm sorry, are you sure you're at the right event? This is Samantha Morrison's shower." "I'm her sister," I said. Her eyes widened. "Oh, the one who lives in California?" "Oregon." Right. Well, how nice that you could make it." The main ballroom was a sea of pink tablecloths, pink flowers, pink punch in crystal bowls, women clustered in groups, their laughter tinkling like wind chimes. I recognized most of them, girls I'd gone to school with, now mothers themselves, wearing the uniform of small-town respectability, pearl necklaces, cardigans, shoes that matched their purses. I spotted my mother first, Lynn Renshaw, 63 years old and still trying to pass for 50, holding court near the gift table. She wore a pink dress that coordinated perfectly with the decorations, her hair freshly colored and styled. She was laughing at something, her hand on another woman's arm, the picture of a proud grandmother-to-be. She didn't notice me at first. I stood near the entrance, invisible as always, watching the party unfold around me. There was Samantha, radiant in a white maternity dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. She was opening gifts, squealing over each tiny outfit and baby gadget while someone, my Aunt Patricia, I realized, dutifully wrote down who gave what for the thank you notes. "Oh my God, is that Natalie?" I turned to find Brittany Carson, Samantha's best friend since middle school, staring at me with undisguised curiosity. Her voice was loud enough to create a ripple effect. Heads turned, conversations paused. Suddenly, I was the center of attention in a way I'd never been in this town. "Hi, Brittany," I said, proud of how steady my voice sounded. "Wow, you look different. Good different. I mean, you were always pretty, just in that alternative way. But now you look so—" She gestured vaguely at my silk dress, my professional styling. "Sophisticated." Before I could respond, my mother materialized at my elbow. "Natalie, you made it." Her tone was carefully neutral, but I caught the flash of surprise, and was that disappointment? In her eyes. "I wasn't sure you'd actually come." "I said I would." "Yes, well," she looked around, as if searching for something. "Did you come alone? I know the invitation said +1, but I didn't see a +1 on my invitation. Actually," I said mildly. "Just a note that no one expected me to bring one." She had the grace to look slightly ashamed. "Oh, that was just— you know how I joke. Come, let's get you some punch. Samantha will be so happy you're here." I let her lead me through the crowd, noting the whispers that followed in our wake. "Is that the sister? The one who moved to Portland? I heard she's still single. My mom said she does something with clothes." Samantha looked up from a pile of baby blankets as we approached. For a moment, our eyes met, and I saw a flash of something. Guilt? Regret? Before her party smile clicked into place. "Natalie. Oh my God. You actually came." She struggled to her feet, one hand on her impressive belly, and air-kissed me on both cheeks. "Everyone, look who made it. My big sister, all the way from Portland." The crowd made appropriate noises of welcome. I smiled and nodded, playing my part, but inside, I was counting down minutes, waiting. "So," Samantha said, settling back into her chair, "tell us about Portland. Are you still doing the whole starving artist thing? Mom says you make clothes or something." "I co-own a sustainable fashion company," I corrected. "We were featured in Vogue last year." "Vogue?" My Aunt Margaret perked up. "Really?" "The sustainability issue," I confirmed. "We're actually in talks with several major retailers about—" "That's nice," my mother interrupted. "Though I do worry about you, sweetheart. All work and no play. You're not getting any younger. 35 is practically geriatric in pregnancy terms." Samantha laughed, the sound sharp as glass. "Oh, Mom, stop. Not everyone can find their James in high school. Some people are just meant to be career women. Right, Nat?" The old nickname, the dismissive tone, the way she said, "career women," like it was a consolation prize. It all hit exactly the way she intended. Around us, women nodded sympathetically, already writing my story in their heads. The spinster sister, the one who chose work over family, the cautionary tale they'd tell their daughters. "Actually," I started, but my mother was already moving on. "Let's play a game. Who can guess the baby's weight?" I stood there, invisible again, as the party swirled around me. Games were played, advice was given. Samantha opened gift after gift. Each one met with theatrical delight. I checked my phone. Evan had texted, "Ready when you are. Isla's getting antsy." 20 minutes, I texted back. "So, Natalie," Brittany appeared at my side again, pink punch in hand. "Are you seeing anyone? I have a cousin in D.C. who's single. He's an accountant, very stable." "That's kind of you, but—" "Oh, you're not—" She lowered her voice. "Gay? Because that's totally fine. My hairdresser is gay and he's the nicest—" "I'm not gay," I said, cutting her off. "Though there's nothing wrong with being gay." "Oh, good. I mean, not good that you're not gay. Good that— Anyway, so about my cousin." "She's not interested in your cousin, Brittany," Samantha called out. "Natalie's married to her work. Always has been. Remember in high school when she turned down Josh Morrison for prom to work on some art project?" The room laughed. I remembered that night differently. I remembered Josh Morrison cornering me by my locker, drunk already at 3 in the afternoon, telling me I should be grateful he was even asking the weird girl. I remembered saying no and him spreading rumors about me for weeks after. I remembered Samantha laughing along with everyone else. Besides, Samantha continued, warming to her theme, can you imagine Natalie with a baby? She'd probably try to dress it in all black, or organic hemp or something. More laughter. My mother tittered along, not bothering to defend me. I felt 17 again, standing in that kitchen with my certificate, realizing I would never be enough. You know what? I said, my voice cutting through the laughter. You're right. I can't imagine having a baby. Samantha smirked, victorious. See? Some people just know themselves. Which is why it's so strange that I have a 5-year-old daughter. The silence was immediate and absolute. Samantha's smirk froze. My mother's punch glass tilted dangerously. What? My mother whispered. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to a photo of Isla at her dance recital, proud and beaming in her tutu. Her name is Isla. She's 5. She likes dinosaurs and painting and speaks Mandarin and English. You have a child? Samantha's voice was strangled. With who? I checked my phone. He should be here any minute. Actually, I told him to wait in the car, but... The ballroom door opened, and there he was, Evan, looking devastating in his navy suit, holding Isla's hand. She bounced beside him in her yellow dress, her face bright with excitement. The entire room turned to stare. You could have heard a pin drop. I walked to them, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Each step felt like a victory. Evan's eyes met mine, full of love and support and pride. Isla broke free and ran to me. Mama, is this the surprise party? I lifted her into my arms, kissing her cheek. Yes, baby, this is the party. I turned back to the frozen crowd, Evan's hand warm on my back. Everyone, this is my husband, Evan. We've been married for 6 years, and this is our daughter, Isla. 6 years? My mother's voice cracked. You've been married for 6 years? 6 wonderful years, Evan confirmed, his arm around my waist. Though I have to say, I'm surprised you're surprised. We sent invitations to the wedding. My mother looked helplessly at Samantha, then back at me. There must have been some mistake. We never received. And the birth announcement, I added calmly, and the Christmas cards, every year for 5 years, all returned to sender or ignored. That's not... I would never... She was actually shaking now. You have a daughter? I have a granddaughter? Hi, Isla waved cheerfully. Are you my grandma? Mommy says you live far away, but this doesn't seem very far. We only flew for 5 hours. My Aunt Margaret was the first to break the tableau, crossing the room with surprising speed for a 70-year-old. Well, I'll be damned. Natalie Renshaw. You dark horse. She looked at Evan appraisingly. And you married well, too. He's gorgeous. Aunt Margaret, my mother gasped. What? He is. And this little one. She bent down to Isla's level. Aren't you just the prettiest thing? I'm your great-aunt Margaret. I've been waiting to meet you for a very long time. You have? Isla asked, confused. But Mommy said, why don't we get you some juice? Evan intervened smoothly, sensing danger. I think I saw a dessert table, too. With cookies? Isla's eyes widened. Lots of cookies? As Evan led her away, I faced my family. Samantha had tears streaming down her face, though I couldn't tell if they were from anger or something else. My mother looked like she'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. How could you? Samantha whispered. How could you show up to my baby shower and make it all about you? I didn't make it about me, I said quietly. You did, with your jokes about my unmarried state, your comments about my life, your assumption that I'm some pathetic spinster living alone with her cats. But you never said anything, you never told us. I tried, multiple times, but every conversation somehow became about you. Every attempt to share my life was dismissed or ignored or forgotten. That's not true, my mother protested. I would have remembered if you'd told me you were getting married. A mother doesn't forget something like that. I pulled out my phone again, scrolled to my email archive. June 15th, 2018. Mom, I wanted to call and share some exciting news. I'm getting married. His name is Evan and he's wonderful. The wedding is in September. I know it's the same weekend as Samantha's anniversary party, but I'm hoping you might… Stop, she whispered. October 2nd, 2018. I know you couldn't make the wedding, but I wanted to share some photos. Evan's family was so welcoming, and the ceremony was… Please stop. March 30th, 2020. We had the baby. Isla Marie Chen Renshaw. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. I've attached some photos. I know things are crazy with the pandemic, but when things settle down… Enough. The word came out as a sob. My mother sank into a chair, her carefully styled hair wilting. I remember some of those emails, but I thought, you were so far away, and Samantha was here, and she needed help with her house, and then James's mother got sick, and I didn't matter enough to remember. I finished for her. The room was silent except for my mother's quiet crying. Even Samantha seemed shocked out of her usual self-absorption. Around us, the party guests shifted uncomfortably. Trapped in a family drama they'd probably dissect for weeks over coffee and gossip. I think, my Aunt Margaret said loudly, that perhaps we should give the family some privacy. There was a general exodus, women gathering purses and making excuses. Within minutes, the ballroom had emptied except for family. Evan returned with Isla, who was happily munching on a sugar cookie. Mommy, why is everyone leaving? Is the party over? No, sweetheart. Just changing locations. I smoothed her hair. Why don't you show Daddy the gardens outside? I saw some really pretty flowers. Evan caught my eye. A silent question. I nodded. I needed to do this next part alone. When they were gone, I sat across from my mother and sister. We stared at each other across the wreckage of the party. Abandoned punch glasses, half-opened presents, a cake that said, "Baby makes 3," in pink icing. I don't understand, Samantha said finally. Why didn't you try harder? Why didn't you make us listen? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Do you know how exhausting it is to beg people to care about your life? To constantly fight for space in your own family? I sent invitations. I sent announcements. I called. And every single time, I was made to feel like an inconvenience, like my milestones were interruptions to the real story, which was always about you. That's not fair, she protested. You were the one who left. You were the one who chose to live across the country. How were we supposed to… Marcus lives in Chicago, I interrupted. That's just as far. But somehow you managed to remember his wife's name. Somehow his kids get birthday presents and video calls. She fell silent at that. Do you want to know why I really left? I asked. It wasn't just the art scholarship or the big city dreams. It was because I realized that no matter what I did, no matter what I achieved, I would always be the weird sister, the one who didn't fit, the one whose interests were tolerated at best and mocked at worst. We never mocked you, my mother said weakly. Natalie's going through another phase. Natalie's always been our little oddball. Natalie will grow out of it. At least we have Samantha. I quoted their words back to them, each one still sharp after all these years. Do you have any idea what it's like to grow up feeling like a consolation prize in your own family? My mother flinched. I never meant… We loved you. We love you. Love isn't just a feeling, Mom. It's an action. It's showing up. It's remembering. It's making space. And you never did any of that for me. But you never seemed to need us, Samantha said. And for the first time, she sounded genuinely confused rather than defensive. You were always so independent, so self-sufficient. You had your art and your friends and your plans. I was the one who needed help. I was the one who was exactly what they wanted you to be, I finished. And that's fine. I'm glad you found happiness in the life Mom mapped out for you, but I needed something different, and instead of trying to understand that, You all just wrote me off." We sat in silence for a long moment. Through the window, I could see Evan pushing Isla on a swing, her laughter carrying faintly through the glass. "She's beautiful," my mother whispered. "Your daughter, she looks like you." "She has Evan's eyes," I said, "and his curiosity about everything. She's perfect." I missed it all. The tears were falling freely now. Her first steps, her first words, all of it. "Yes," I said simply. "You did." "Is it too late?" She looked at me with desperate hope. "To know her? To know you? To be a family?" I thought about all the hurt, all the years of feeling invisible. I thought about the 17-year-old girl with her certificate, the 23-year-old sending wedding invitations to silence, the new mother cradling her baby alone while her own mother fussed over Samantha's kitchen renovation. But I also thought about Isla, drawing pictures of grandparents she'd never met. I thought about the new baby growing inside me, who deserved the chance to know their whole family. I thought about forgiveness, and how sometimes it's less about the people who hurt you and more about freeing yourself from the weight of old pain. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but maybe we can try." My mother sobbed harder. Samantha stared at her hands, twisted in her lap. "I was jealous," Samantha said suddenly. "God, I was so jealous of you." I blinked. "What?" "You got to leave. You got to choose. You got to be whoever you wanted to be." She looked up, and I was shocked to see tears in her eyes too. "I did everything right, everything I was supposed to do, and sometimes I lie awake at night wondering who I might have been if I'd been brave enough to disappoint them." "Sam?" I started, but she shook her head. "No, let me finish. I made your life harder because I was angry that you got to leave and I had to stay. I turned you into a joke because it was easier than admitting I was envious. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." We were all crying now. Years of hurt and misunderstanding flowing out in tears and halting words. My mother reached for my hand, tentative, as if I might pull away. "Tell me about her," she whispered. "Tell me about my granddaughter. Tell me about your husband. Tell me about your life, please." So I did. I told them about meeting Evan, about our wedding in the garden, about building our business together. I told them about Isla's first word, surprisingly, light in Mandarin, about her love of dinosaurs, about how she insisted on wearing a tutu to grocery shop for 6 months straight. I showed them photos on my phone, birthday parties and beach trips and lazy Sunday mornings. "And you're happy?" my mother asked. "Truly happy?" "Truly happy," I confirmed. "It's not the life you imagined for me, but it's exactly the life I imagined for myself." "That's all I ever really wanted," she said softly. "For my children to be happy. I thought I knew what that looked like. I thought happiness meant following the path I'd taken. I never considered that you might need a different map." Samantha laughed wetly. "God, we really fucked this up, didn't we?" "Samantha, language!" our mother gasped, but she was almost smiling. "What? I'm about to be a mother. I need to practice my mom voice." She looked at me. Can I meet her properly? Isla, as her aunt?" I nodded. "I'll go get them." I found Evan and Isla in the garden, making daisy chains. Isla had flowers in her hair and dirt on her dress, and she'd never looked more perfect. "How did it go?" Evan asked quietly. "Better than expected," I said. "They want to meet you, properly this time." He studied my face. "And you're okay with that?" "I think so. Maybe. We'll see." "Mama, did you cry?" Isla touched my cheek with concern. "Your makeup is smudgy." "Happy tears, baby. Sometimes we cry when we're happy too." "Oh, like when Daddy cries at movies?" Evan groaned. "I told you not to tell people that." I laughed, really laughed, for the first time all day. "Come on. There are some people who want to meet you." The rest of the afternoon was awkward and beautiful and painful and hopeful all at once. Isla charmed everyone, as I knew she would, chattering about her preschool and her best friend Lucy and the butterfly she'd seen in the garden. Samantha asked her about her favorite books. My mother taught her a clapping game we'd played as children. Even James, who'd appeared at some point looking bewildered by the empty ballroom and tear-stained faces, made her laugh with silly faces. "You know," Evan said quietly, standing beside me as we watched Isla show my mother her ballet moves. "She looks like she belongs here, with them." "She belongs everywhere," I said. "That's the gift we're giving her. The knowledge that she can fit in anywhere, be anything, without losing herself." "Like her mother," he said, kissing my temple. "I learned the hard way. She won't have to." As the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of pink that matched the abandoned decorations, my mother pulled me aside. "I know I have no right to ask this," she started hesitantly, "but will you stay in touch? Real touch. Not just Christmas cards? Video calls with Isla? Maybe visits?" I thought about it. "We can try, but Mom, it has to be different. I won't pretend anymore. I won't make myself smaller to fit into the space you've allocated for me. I won't compete with Samantha for your attention. If we do this, you have to see me, really see me, as I am." "I want to," she said earnestly. "I want to know you, the real you, the successful businesswoman, the mother, the artist, all of it." "And Evan," I added, "he's not just some addition to my life. He's my partner, my equal, the father of my children. If you want us, you get all of us." "Children?" She caught the plural. "Are you?" I placed a hand on my still flat stomach. 12 weeks. We haven't told anyone yet. Not even Ela." Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "Oh, sweetheart, another grandchild, another chance to get it right." "Maybe," I said. "We'll see." Before we left, Samantha hugged me. A real hug, not the air kiss performance from earlier. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For all of it. For the jokes and the dismissal and the way I made you feel invisible. You were never invisible. I always saw you. I was so scared you'd see me too. See how jealous and small I was." "You're not small," I told her. "You're just different, and that's okay. Can we try again? As sisters? Real sisters this time?" "I'd like that," I said, and meant it. The drive back to the hotel was quiet. Isla had crashed from her sugar high and emotional excitement, sleeping in her car seat with her new stuffed animal, a gift from Samantha, clutched to her chest. Evan held my hand over the center console, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "So," he said eventually, "that was a lot," I finished. "Are you okay?" I considered the question. Was I okay? I'd spent years building walls around the hurt, convincing myself I didn't need their approval or their presence. Today, I'd demolished those walls in the most dramatic way possible. I'd made myself vulnerable again to people who'd already proven they could hurt me. But I'd also stood up for myself. I'd claimed my place in the family narrative. I'd refused to be erased or diminished, and they'd heard me, finally, actually heard me. "I think so," I said. "It's not fixed. It might never be fully fixed. But maybe it's a start." "That was incredibly brave," he said. "Walking in there, facing them down. I'm so proud of you." "I couldn't have done it without you, without her." I glanced back at our sleeping daughter. "She made me brave. Both of you did. You showed me what real family looks like, so I could stop accepting scraps from the one I was born into." That night, after Ela was tucked into the hotel bed and Evan was in the shower, I sat on the balcony with my phone. There were texts from Maya asking how it went, from friends who knew what today meant, but the one that made me pause was from Samantha. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing them. Thank you for giving us another chance. I know I don't deserve it, but I promise to try, to really try. P.S. Isla told me you're having another baby. Congratulations. This one will know their aunt from day one." I smiled, despite myself. It wasn't everything. It wasn't an erasure of all the hurt or a magic reconciliation that fixed years of damage, but it was something, a seed of possibility planted in soil that had been barren for so long. The next morning, we had breakfast at the hotel restaurant. Isla charmed the waitstaff and made friends with a toddler at the next table. Evan and I shared knowing looks over coffee as she chattered about her new grandma and Aunt Sammy and when we could visit again. "So what now?" Evan asked as we packed up to leave. "Now we go home," I said. "We live our lives, we run our business, we raise our children, and maybe, sometimes, we include them in that, on our terms. And if they fall back into old patterns? Then we protect ourselves. We protect her." I watched Isla carefully arrange her new stuffed animal in her backpack. "But maybe they won't. Maybe people can change." "Very optimistic of you," he teased. "Yeah, well, pregnancy hormones. Talk to me again in 6 months when I'm huge and cranky." He laughed, pulling me close. "I love you. Huge, cranky, brave, beautiful you." "I love you too. Thank you for being my reinforcement yesterday." "Always," he promised. "That's what family does." As we drove away from Arden Falls, I didn't look back. There was no need. Everything I needed was in this car. My husband, my daughter, the new life growing inside me, the family I'd chosen, the family I'd built, the family that saw me clearly and loved me completely. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "I found more photos of your wedding online. You looked so beautiful. Evan seems wonderful. I'm sorry I missed it. I'm sorry I missed so much. But if you'll let me, I'd like to be there for what comes next." I showed it to Evan at a red light. He smiled. "What do you want to do?" "I want to give her a chance," I said slowly. "Not for her, not even for me, but for them." I touched my belly, then looked back at Isla. They deserve to know where they come from, all of it, the good and the complicated, and the learning how to do better. "Then that's what we do," he said simply. "That's what we do," I agreed. 6 months later, I stood in my Portland kitchen, Evan's arms around my enormous belly, watching my laptop screen. On the other side of the video call, my mother held her newest granddaughter, Samantha's baby girl, born 2 weeks earlier. Samantha looked tired, but happy, and even through the camera, I could see how gentle my mother was with the baby, how present. "Have you picked a name yet?" my mother asked, addressing me. "We have," I said, "but we're waiting until she's born to announce it." "She?" Samantha perked up. "Another girl?" "Another girl," Evan confirmed. "Isla's very excited about being a big sister." "Where is my granddaughter?" my mother asked, and the ease with which she said it, my granddaughter, as if she'd always claimed her, made my chest tight. "Art class," I said. "She's working on a painting for the baby's room." "Of course she is," Samantha said. But it was fond now, not mocking. "An artist like her mama." We talked for a few more minutes about pregnancy symptoms and nursery plans. My mother offered to come help after the birth, an offer I said I'd think about and actually meant it. When we hung up, Evan kissed the top of my head. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, surprised to find it was true. "I actually am." "No regrets about the baby shower bombshell?" I laughed. "Are you kidding? That was the most satisfying moment of my life. Did you see their faces when you walked in?" "I did, though I was mostly looking at you. You look like a warrior princess claiming her throne." "Mixed metaphors," I teased. "Accurate ones," he countered. 2 weeks later, Rosalie Isla Chen Renshaw was born, screaming and perfect and absolutely certain of her place in the world, just like her sister. When my mother asked to video call from the hospital, I said yes. When she cried at the first sight of her newest granddaughter, they were genuine tears. When she asked if she could visit, I gave her dates that worked for us. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of awkwardness, times when old patterns threatened to resurface, but we were trying, all of us, to see each other clearly, to make space for different kinds of happiness, to build something new on the ruins of what had been. The day Rosie turned 1 month old, a package arrived from Virginia. Inside was a handmade quilt, each square containing a photo transferred onto fabric. I recognized my grandmother's wedding dress, my mother's graduation photo, Samantha as a baby, but there, given equal space and prominence, were photos I'd sent over the past months. My wedding, Isla's first birthday, Evan and me at our business launch. The note, in my mother's careful handwriting, said, "Every family tells a story. Thank you for making sure ours includes all its chapters. Love, Mom." I hung the quilt in Rosie's nursery, where it caught the afternoon light. When Isla came home from preschool, she studied it carefully, tracing the faces with one small finger. "That's our family," she announced with satisfaction. "All of us." "All of us," I agreed, lifting her up to see better. "Even the ones who live far away." "But we live here," she said firmly. "This is home." "This is home," I confirmed, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, listening to Rosie starting to fuss in her bassinet, hearing Evan's car in the driveway. "This is definitely home." And it was. Not the home I'd run from all those years ago, but the one I'd built with my own hands, filled with chosen love and intentional joy, a home where everyone was seen, where different paths were celebrated, where love was shown through presence and attention and the daily choice to show up. The girl who'd fled Arden Falls at 18 would barely recognize the woman I'd become, but she'd be proud. I think, proud that I'd found my voice, proud that I'd refused to disappear, proud that I'd built a life so beautiful, so full, that I could afford to be generous with second chances. My phone buzzed with a text from Samantha. "Rosie looks just like you did as a baby. Mom found photos. Want to see?" "Send them," I typed back. "All of them." Because that's what families do. I was learning. They share their stories, all the chapters, even the ones that hurt to read. They make space for different definitions of happiness. They try and fail and try again. They show up, imperfectly but persistently. And sometimes, if you're very lucky and very brave, they give you the chance to walk into a room full of assumptions and shatter them all with the simple truth of who you really are. I'd spent so many years as a ghost in my own family's story, but ghosts, I'd learned, have their own power. They can walk through walls. They can appear when least expected, and sometimes, when the moment is just right, they can make themselves so undeniably visible that no one can ever erase them again. I wasn't a ghost anymore. I was Natalie Chen Renshaw, mother, wife, entrepreneur, artist, sister, daughter. I was all of these things, fully and unapologetically, and finally, my family could see me. All of me. Just as I'd always been,